Hey everybody, welcome to episode 147 of Tactical Crouch. Kickedtripod here with Yiska and Volamel. I'm not gonna lie, we're gonna just talk through a lot of these new roster changes. A lot of teams we haven't discussed yet in the offseason. A lot of teams have changed a ton, and it's definitely gonna be a good fun show. If you like the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Big thank you to our patron producers, who we'll talk about in a second. If you also would like to support the show, you can always just subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch, leave us a 5-star iTunes review. Basically, do whatever you can on whatever platform. Just search for Tactical Crouch. Big thanks to our patron producers: Refine Bean, Ferdino, Pin, Battlecrab, Lolshin, Rex, Zane, Audio Compass, Kasha67, Shara, Picasso, Nathan, Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Fabled Steven, Roger B, Owen, Christar 34444, Horbjorn. I listen to this podcast whilst on the toilet and in the shower, thinking of Yiska and Peace Camper.
That one is kind of a road bump.
That's
like the first like obnoxiously long name of the list.
Yeah.
It's my favorite and least favorite at the same time.
For sure.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So anyways, hey guys, good to see you. Been a while.
Hello.
Been about a week. Actually, no, we did a show on Friday, so it's been 5 days.
Friday.
Yep. You know, it's felt like a month though. These last 10 days.
That was a lot. Yeah. If you ask an astrophysicist, I'm pretty sure that he would tell you that that's just like the longest week in the history of mankind. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. I forget what is it that Einstein says, something about
E's
being on a
equals
train and time slowing down and speeding up relative to what you're perceiving at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm pretty good with my Einstein quotes, so you're welcome.
Great job.
Well, hey guys, let's
Hello.
Man, there's a lot to talk about. There is. We'll just stop at the front, shall we?
Let's go.
SureFour and Nevix. We finally have some clarity behind both of them, Joe.
Yeah. It sounds like SureFour probably is stepping away, and it looks like Nevix is as well. Both kind of old heads of the game, been around for literally since I feel like the start. SureFour definitely. Nevix, I'd have to go back and look at
but Nevix, yeah. Definitely day one. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, two storied careers. I still like, there's still a part of me that's just like, I wonder if Nevix has a little bit left in the tank. Definitely somebody who had like a promising DPS career and then moved. SureFour, obviously, I don't think much needs to be said. Easily one of the best Western players to kind of touch the game for a long time. Just can never really find the right fit.
He's a quote.
Yeah, it's just said.
A quote.
I think the way I want to remember SureFour's career is the way he played very early last season or season 3 against the Philly Fusion, where it felt like he could take CarCar on while also being incredibly smart, and to my knowledge also doing a lot of the shot calling for the team. And yeah, like he's definitely a gigantic talent. I also saw he's hanging out with already the big dogs of streaming. So I'm sure he has a career there.
Yep. Always an intelligent person on that front as well. Like something that I don't think we credit esports athletes, esports players enough is like keeping that door open. And he's always had that door to go back to, right? Like it's kind of, I wouldn't say where you started, but definitely made sure to kind of carve himself out of space in terms of streaming and content creation. So, you know, I think he'll be fine. It's you know, it's sad to see a lot of these old players go, but you know, such is the passing of time, right?
Right. Yeah. And then for Nevix, I mean, this guy had a wild career, and it's kind of sad that probably most Overwatch people that have started watching Overwatch as Overwatch League started actually don't know that this guy was a DPS player and also was a pretty cracked Ana.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Won tournaments back in the day, was one of the best players around during the MLG days and whatnot. So
Was
definitely
on that early
also
dominant
someone.
Misfits team. Yep.
True. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, that's a change. I think that's kind of foreseeable that the old heads eventually retire. You very rarely have people like literally from week one holding on for as long.
Yeah.
That's just one of the many developments of a game, especially one that changes so frequently as Overwatch does and still does. So it's just a natural progression. I wish Nevix had a little bit of a better last hurrah, because I feel like people almost meme like he is an Overwatch League champion.
It's true. Did win a ring.
And you probably are being kept around by someone like Krusty because you can bring it to the table.
Yep.
You bring something.
So yeah, definitely one of the most decorated, or not most decorated, but most tenured players in Overwatch League. I think he actually probably didn't win as much as his skill level could have allowed him to over the years. But yeah, like
100%.
pretty nice for him. Pretty nice for him to still go out as an Overwatch League champion. Of course.
He got his, you know, at the top with Shock. Yeah, I always wonder what Nevix could have been if he would have stayed DPS, because he was like that flexible and showed promise on a lot of different heroes, a lot of different avenues, and yeah, just kind of sad to see him go. As you know, it is with a lot of different like old, you know, Jae Hong, and like how much more do these guys have left in the tank? We're nearing an Overwatch League Hall of Fame, as chat, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of that aptly pointed out. We need to make one someday.
To consider 100%. Yeah.
I think both these players for sure. At least maybe on a Western front. You know, these are two guys you probably want on that ballot.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, I think so. It's a bummer to see them both go. I think I'm still like, did either of them say what they're moving on to next?
Not to my knowledge, but there again, I just kind of saw that they retired.
They didn't explicitly say. Yeah,
didn't say much.
Pretty sure SureFour will just stream, given his recent streaming schedule with who he was streaming and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, theoretically, from an aim perspective, like he could easily be, you know, one of these Shroud Ace type of chill streamers to just like have crack mechanics on top of being smart. I wonder if
either of them are going to try to make a move to Valorant. Is I think kind of what my question was.
Sure. Yeah. Not
maybe
that
SureFour, but yeah, I doubt. Maybe like streaming it. I don't know if.
If you're an Overwatch League player that's like quote unquote retiring right now, are you kind of hanging on a little bit longer to see what comes with Overwatch 2?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Like hanging on, meaning like I'll leave the door open, maybe. But
yeah,
actively playing it and like worrying about like trialing for teams and stuff, maybe not, depending on like
trialing, but kind of just like,
is it a possibility?
Keep the chops up, keep the networks open, you know, not like sign on to a new team in another esport yet, and just kind of like
see what happens.
That's what I would do.
Stream.
That's what, when you're that good at a game, and a game has the potential to fundamentally shift potentially into your favor and your playstyle's favor.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think, and again, we've already started to see some kind of rubber banding backwards, but it's I think that it could bounce back where you start to see some veteran talent kind of return at a later date, because again, and I've written about this, but we do kind of have like a very unique experience. Overwatch is not a game that you can kind of like really find other games that kind of scratch that same itch.
Yeah.
Nothing's really like Overwatch. For all that we love about it and all that we hate about it, it is a unique, genuine experience that you really can't get elsewhere. So if that love is still there, if you know that itch ever pops up again, you know, could come back.
Yeah, I can only think of a couple who have tried to like take on the Overwatch model. What were they? Start with the D.
I know there was one immediately out right as like Overwatch came out.
But it was
there's a few that were
Chad will tell us in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been a few that have kind of tried to, but Overwatch has really been one of the few, if not only, game of its kind to like find any level of like mainstream success. It's Paladins was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
I think that there's one
That's
more.
it.
I think that there was
another
another Paladins one that came in. It Battleborn? What was the one where the like the game director was proud that they were making porn about his game, their game? Was that Paladins? I think that might have been Battleborn. And it was like part of the comparison to Overwatch. Anyways, not that Yiska knew the question to that answer the whole time. He just didn't want to admit it.
Yeah, totally.
Because you know him,
Randy Pitchford. That's it. All right, no more talking about Overwatch porn. Yeah. Okay. So they are going to be sorely missed. We did have one other departure over. I guess you call it. Yeah, you would call it. It's a retirement technically.
Yeah.
CarCar is announced his retirement. He played for Vancouver Titans, the new redesigned Vancouver Titans, Atlanta Academy before that, Fusion University before that, Sky Foxes on loan, second win, Mirage. So quite a storied career there. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know a whole lot about.
Was a promising main support, somebody who I hoped Vancouver would kind of keep along, but from his exit post, it seems like he was just checked out of the game and just kind of burnt out. So there's not much you can do about that. Definitely somebody who had a future, if he wanted to kind of stay within the scene. But yeah, another one that's just it's kind of a juxtaposition to like the old heads who are just like, my time's up, it is what it is. CarCar's kind of this new generation of talent that is like just getting burnt, and that's like the apt example of somebody who Overwatch is kind of torched, because this game changes so quickly and so fast. Like, you're gonna torch these players who just like aren't. I mean, it's just rough. It's sad to see so much talent, so much promise. Really didn't hear much in a bad way from former coaches and people who have worked with him. Like, definitely had the talent to continue if he wanted to. So sad to see.
Breaking news. The Philadelphia Fusion have announced that Ivy has been. Well, they've thanked Ivy. He's an unrestricted free agent right now. So
yes,
we are down to Hisu, Carpe, Mono, Funny Astro, and Alarm confirmed, with Poco still on option until November 13th.
Just 2 days.
It's not that long ago, dude. Like,
and Sado. I don't know if we talked about it last time or not, but Sado's option was declined. So
yes.
Mono is, for right now, their main tank, which we had a long discussion about if and how that might work if that wasn't the case on the last episode.
Right.
We said that we weren't going to talk about Fusion until more details came out.
Now we have more details.
And now we have more details, and I think we kind of need to go to the Fusion apologist, Yiska, and ask him what his thoughts are on the Fusion not holding on to Ivy here. They don't have anybody in the flex DPS spot right now.
I mean, they kind of cleaned house everywhere, right? Like Sado's gone, Fury's gone, and then Ivy's gone as well. I think, like, I don't think at the level of these players, you're actually upgrading to make the difference to be able to win a championship. What you're doing is finding players that accommodate the new system that a new head coach might be bringing. And that's why also I still think, like, because the messaging of this looks pretty bad. Like, you're letting go, like, Fury. I don't think anyone disputes that this is a top 3 main tank. Yeah. Like, Sado was like considered. Is he a world star? I'm not even sure.
Can check.
I don't think so. But like one of the better main tanks or best main tanks in the Overwatch League. And then honestly, Ivy was also had definitely his best season in the Overwatch League, but also was a really, really good flex support DPS this season. So on the surface, this looks pretty negative, right? Mm-hmm. But you cannot necessarily judge those moves until you see the replacements. And even when you see the names of those replacements, you still got to figure like that it isn't necessarily for the pound for pound quality, but what a coach like 9K wants to create with that roster. Now, of course, that assumes for me that like 9K has a lot of authority there. Not sure how much that is. Yeah, but generally speaking, like this is sort of like cutting half of what made you great last season off. I think it is half.
It is. But I do put some stock into what you're saying with, okay, if you want a championship and you want 9K to bring you there, you kind of have to give him some space. And that can come in the form of some options being declined and some players being let go who are good players. They deserve to be here and will 100% find homes. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be with the Fusion, right? So I think this is like a, step back and look at this and wait and see what happens. Because again, you look at that free agency list, there are some players there that I think people would be very not only excited over, but make sense.
And so that was kind of, I think, the next point or question I want to ask you guys. Because to me, well, yes, it looks like Fusion is taking a couple of steps back here. I mean, obviously, whenever you're losing pieces and not announcing new pieces, it's always going to have some level of that doesn't look good unless you're just trimming dead weight. But in the case of Fusion, they didn't really have it unless you wanted to talk about Chipsa, which we don't want to.
Yeah, no place.
I think that there is enough players right now on the free agency to still build a contending team here. We don't know how much Philly is willing to spend. I mean, they've got Comcast Spectacor behind them. Like it's not it's not the world's smallest.
Change, boys.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, trust me. I've my internet bill, I think, has close to paid for at least a couple of these guys' salaries. So I think that there is a good team here as long as they aren't downsizing or backing off purely for financial reasons.
Of course. And I can already tell you that's not what's happening. Yeah. And Like apparently their release schedule is like 7:30, 8:30, 9:30 or something. At least that's what my Twitter says. They're not done yet either. So I think
it's
this team
midday.
will look considerably different, but like maybe that's what you got to do. To be fair, I think they kept their best pieces so far, right? Like
Their
I
backline
think
and
it's
Carpe
yes, like
and Hisu.
Well, we don't know about Hisu.
dude, I'm not. I think for
I
instance,
got some eyes on him.
What do you
I
mean?
think for instance that Fury is a better off tank than Carpe is a DPS player in the respective role that that he plays.
I hate that I'm gonna agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hisu, to kind of clear the air with that, he has removed all alignment with Fusion and has posted that he's allowed to look at options.
Got it.
Not officially announced by the team's front, so there is kind of like not a miscommunication, but there is kind of like a weird communication to that.
Right.
So I don't know exactly how to feel with him if they are going to option him, because I believe he's still under contract. No,
That's
they up him?
what I have here. And that's where I think I
Right.
was a little bit confused, is I do have Hisu as their 2021 option has been exercised.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's a little strange to me.
it's a little odd.
I mean, that's trying to get buyouts, right? Like, and if nobody else wants to buy him, then
Hisu wants to play with Sado. There you go.
I mean, I don't think that's too crazy to say. I mean, if
I'm not
if,
sure where the allegiances are. No
if
idea.
we're playing Duck Duck Goose, I think chat can come to their own conclusions on that front.
Yeah.
I won't add any tickets to the speculation lottery, but I think you can see where my brain's going. But yeah, Fusion in general, I think 9K points me in a direction. I think Mono points me in a direction. That direction being this team is not going to skimp. They've come to the dance twice now, placed well twice now at the the end of the playoffs, end of these monthly tournaments, end of these stages. They want a ring. They want a title. And they're not going to skimp on who they pick up. There are some free agents on this list that I think they've put gold stars next to, and they're like, this is who we're going for. And if we can't get it, then burn it all down, I guess. I don't know.
Do you think they're going to sign Rascal or Neist? Do you think that's the DPS they're looking at in the flex DPS spot?
I'd like to see Neist come up as maybe somebody for 2022. I just don't know if you plug him in now. I don't know if 9K has plans for that or not. That's my only concern, is that like that is a nice utility piece that Philly has at their disposal. I just don't know exactly if you put a coach into that with the MO of win me a championship and you have job security. If not, then you're gone. Again, not what's happening, but like kind of framing this in a way. I don't know exactly what you do with Nice in that kind of scenario where it's just like, I want to use you, but I don't know exactly how to just yet. You're valuable. I want to keep you on. Maybe move them to minimum and then like get somebody else like a Rascal, like an Erster, or something else on top of it. That's like, okay.
Why would he sign that?
Huh?
Why would he sign that?
I couldn't tell you. Maybe he wants to play here.
Wants to win.
Maybe.
If you want to win, I think you go to Shock, but
I mean, do you think Shock is shelling out right now for?
Probably not, but I think that's where you can kind of
CPS.
leverage. For Flex in particular.
So I do want to say something just for chat. While these are technically rankings, these are based off of the average in our Discord. We don't see the rankings as super important here.
Yeah, just think of it as a list.
Don't put them under a microscope too much. I just keep the Discord one up here so that there's no kind of bias towards whose we show, and it's just an average. So pay more attention to the names on the list, and the general order is I still think relatively good. If you're like kind of new, but there are definitely spots you can pick apart here. This is not kind of meant to be a real ranking as much as it is to kind of show a field of 12 free agents in each position that are kind of knocking on the door for an Overwatch League contract.
So let's look at Shock's flex, right? Like damage dealing wise, according and per the Overwatch League official contract list for 2020, Ons' option was exercised. Striker's option was exercised. Tayo's option was exercised. Rascal is a free agent due to his existing contract being, out of date and expiring. If you're not optioning and re-upping Rascal, which you would assume, but he is a free agent, at least to my current knowledge, right? If you were going to move for the future, which Krusty has said and spoken a lot to, and speaks to his kind of coaching acumen, I could see maybe them going and making a bid for Nice. Letting Rascal go on and do his thing elsewhere and moving ahead, going for a third title, going for a fourth title. I know obviously Krusty has said that, he doesn't want to stay for a team or with a team for more than 3 titles, but I think this would be a very Krusty move to kind of plan for that future and still, I wouldn't say lateral move, but take somebody who has a lot of promise and bring them on board. I could see maybe Shock making a play like that. So,
yeah,
I don't think it's too out of question, as crazy as that might sound to Shock family, that, oh my God, you can't get rid of Rascal. It's like, I don't think anybody's that sacred.
And we've talked about at length why Shock aren't still holding on, like didn't hold on to Rascal. I think we've probably dedicated almost a half hour to it. So we won't keep going about it in this episode. Go watch the last couple episodes. There's timestamps on the YouTube videos, and I'm sure it shows up on a topic there for you. Can we talk about the Gladiators a little bit?
Please.
Sure.
So Gladiators have made some changes here, adding MuZe and Shu. Joe, I see you're nodding your head like that. You know that meme cat that's like,
he's nodding along to some song.
Yeah.
You know what I'm actually listening to? Not to tangent.
Yeah.
I'm finally listening to that stupid KDA album, and it kind of is okay.
Dude, KDA is sick, man.
It's kind of okay. They have like 2 good songs, and then the rest of it's kind of poop. But
what are the 2 good songs?
I think Baddest is quite the bop. And no, I didn't like Villain.
What?
Baddest and Move.
Get out of here.
Baddest and Move are
get out of
the
here.
2 good ones.
Get out of here.
Move or More?
More. I'm sorry, not Move.
More. Yeah.
Villain.
Baddest
I like
and
More.
Yeah. Not a fan of Move or Villain. And then like the drum song, I was just like, it's
You're
fine.
wrong.
That's fine. That is what it is. Gladiators.
So Gladiators, MuZe and Shu. We do know Birdring, Kevster, Mirror Space all re-signed. So MuZe and Shu are the 2 new signings for the LA Gladiators. We've spoken highly of Shu in the past. I think everybody is happy with that signing. MuZe is a newer name, especially if you don't follow Tier 2 coming from Eternal Academy, but also has come up a lot in kind of free agent main tank discussions. So overall, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say these are good signings. Don't hate me.
I'd say so.
Don't hate me, guys. Don't hate me for being controversial.
How brave of you. Yeah, no, I think I've welcome to the MuZe Club, everybody. This is your president speaking. This is a good move. Since Talon, since Gauntlet, I've been banging the drum that somebody needs to give this kid a look. And Gladiators have, and I think this is a main tank. This is my second pick in a draft lottery when it comes to main tank. you can't ignore Mag. You can't ignore the talent that kid possesses, and it has possessed for a long time, right? He's number one on that draft list. Second, right. I think you can argue, I think MuZe should go there. Has a little less of a proven track record, but still has a lot of talent and a lot of promise that Gladiators can really, bank on for the future. I think, in the next 2 years, I think you can see MuZe becoming like a strong contender for this team in terms of a main tank. And then behind him, you have arguably the most underrated and undervalued flex support in the league, in Shu. And that's a position that they've sorely needed an upgrade on these last few years. We'll see what happens with main support, but if this is anything to go off of with how this roster continues to fill out, Glads have to be in that discussion, that top seed, going into kind of power ranking season. I've got a lot of good things to say about Gladiators.
Yeah.
Question did come up: is Deepay still coach? Deepay is the head coach.
I've got to assume
Brenda has moved into a GM role. I don't know how involved, if there's like any co-GMing going on. Yiska, I know you had an interview with Brenda recently. Is it, have they totally kind of gone away from the head coach / GM role for Deepay, and they've just kind of like recreated 2 different spots for him again?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, oh my God, titles are so useless. Jesus Christ. Status seeking vanity labels. Like,
funnily enough, we're not talking about Philly here in that regard as well.
What do you mean?
Because I think this is slowly coming more and more to light that 9K was signed to be a GM, but did a lot of coaching on the Paris Eternal. I don't know exactly how up to date the community is on that, but for all my knowledge,
Joe, maybe the most. Maybe
can't speak on that.
But anyway, no, like Deepay. Like, I talked to Brenda about this, and Deepay is, of course, still going to stick around. They still believe in their in Deepay's vision. They agree, like, they were kind of late to the offseason last time, and a lot of things just like crumbled for them because they were pretty prepared with their structures for travel. And then COVID happened, and every structure they had sort of collapsed, which makes perfect sense, by the way, in how they finished. Because I also think Atlanta was very much like that as well, where they actually had everything really figured out. But of course, like, if you have a rigid plan that's specialized for one circumstance, it's really hard to pivot on a moment's notice, right? So, they are going to continue with Deepay. I also don't think that's a problem at all. That's a top 5 coach consistently, other than last season. I also think that this will be, or already is, probably the best. No. Erase probably. This is the best Gladiators roster they ever had. Space is your worst player right now. And that's a quality of. You want to say Mirror? I disagree.
I think Mirror is very valuable, but if you were to put him in a vacuum and compare him directly to another peer, I'd say he's probably the worst.
I don't think I agree.
I think he's kind of an exception.
But I also don't think I have strong enough evidence to tell you why I disagree. It just doesn't sit right yet. I gotta think on it. It's like a 7-Eleven burrito a little bit. Yeah. It's like, sometimes it sits. Sometimes it kind of bubbles up to the top. Sometimes it just goes straight down. This one's bubbling up to the top a little bit. That doesn't sit right with me.
I also don't want to die on this hill. It's just to illustrate that the caliber of this team is incredibly high. Will continue to develop incredibly high. So this is a title contender, straight up. Like,
on the outset, definitely up there.
It's a top 5 team. If that means to you title contender, I mean, you can be a top 5 team without being a serious title contender, I think, for various reasons.
Sure.
And it is the quality of being able to peak and come together and have that special something.
Mm.
I don't know if I necessarily find that in there yet, other than it being very, very good pieces. So we gotta go searching for that a little bit. But yeah, otherwise I'm a fan of their roster building strategy so far.
Yep. Another team that's doesn't seem like they're skimping on much. Bringing on another coach in Ty Dalla, bringing on Shu, who I couldn't love more. MuZe, we'll see where else they head. But yeah, on the outset, Gladiators making a lot of good moves, a lot of good things to say coming into power ranking season. Could be a top 5 team. I won't make any claims just yet until we see the rest of the field, but yeah, definitely above top 10 for sure.
Dude, I thought I had my 5, and now a team's kind of popped up where I'm like, you can be top 5, bro. Like, give me some more, and you can be, and that's exciting. That can happen. Yeah.
I mean, you've got so many teams now that I think that we've said has been a real contender. I don't know yet if I'm ready to say that the Gladiators are a real title contender yet. If I'm being honest, but
that's fair.
You've got Dallas Fuel now. Obviously, you have the San Francisco Shock. You've got the Philadelphia Fusion.
No.
Yiska wants to sneak Gladiators in there.
Can't ignore Seoul. There's a lot. I mean,
hey, first of all, it's pretty cool that that's 4 Western teams. In no particular order, by the way. Just like as
in my mind, I was talking about NA, by the way. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's where I wanted to make the distinction. Are we talking about specifically NA, or are we talking about Globe? Okay, and that's fair. I think you could safely put Glad's top 5 then.
But even then, not sure how good Asia will be next season.
Do you think that Justice are making enough of the right moves right now to be a contender?
Yes.
Jerry, Tuba, Decay, Mag?
We'll see.
We should probably just talk about them.
Yeah. I like Jerry.
So they this last week, they did sign Jerry. Tuba and Decay have been there for a while. Did they announce Mag last time we discussed, or not yet? I don't know the date on that.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember if we talked about it or if we've talked about it, so we might as well just
I think it was a while ago, but yeah, it was October 24th, so it's been a while, but we haven't talked about it on the show.
Okay. So Mag, I love. Easily, I think my most valuable rookie coming into this season. Somebody who can lead your team, not lead your team in terms of like leadership, but like this is a piece that you get in a rebuild that sets the tone for the rest of them. Like this is your budget sink. If you can lock up Mag for like multiple years, I think you're good. Main tank is probably the most shallow in terms of like actual talent. And Mag coming in as a rookie, this is somebody who you want to throw stacks at. This is somebody who you want to like see in a number of years. You want to re-up them, hopefully. So Washington nailing him was surprising, but like a move for the future and a move that really gives me hope for this team going forward. Then you've got Jerry coming in recently. It looks like Tuba's re-upped, and obviously Decay being re-signed. I don't think we need to say too much about Mr. Decay over here being an absolute stud MVP caliber talent. I've seen some pushback on Jerry, which I'm kind of surprised to see. I think he's just a value pick. Same thing with Tuba, where it's just like these are going to be rotational talents to kind of just pair up with Decay. Decay is going to be the star. He's going to get the resources. He's going to, do what he does best. And Tuba and Jerry just kind of fit around him as best as they can. And I think they're fine fits. I think they're role players. And then you put them next to somebody like Mag, and so far, good moves. But is that enough to push them top 5 for me right now? I'd say no.
So far it's only half a roster.
Yeah.
And
I need to see another big one.
That needs to be taken with a grain of salt. But these are big. It'd be really disappointing if they bring on Mag, Decay, to a lesser extent Jerry, and then just kind of bring on 3 nobodies. That just just doesn't seem like a very I don't know. Like, I feel like you kind of just want to balance that out, take them down, all 6 players down a tier, and and kind of do a Gladiators things where you try to sit on that bubble and see if you can't make a few runs at the right times.
All right, Justice, you wanna swing for the fences here?
Oh boy,
I think you talk to Supreme, your head coach, and see if there aren't any ducks on the market. See if there's aren't any little itty bitties running around looking for homes. Because if you can fill it out with some former Spark players, I'm not mad at that. Not mad at that at all.
It's kind of crazy how you can just like grab any of the top 2 names from the spreadsheet and just like any of these teams kind of immediately
plug them in, and you're just like,
right? Like Fury, Violet, Moth.
Done.
Sign
me up.
Disgusting.
Okay. Here's another interesting thing that only just occurred to me, which is like, when Mag turned 18, right?
Yeah.
He could have played last season. So if you bring in Mag now as Washington Justice, couldn't you have done? I mean, I suppose you have budgets for like a season, but think of how this team could have been different in playoffs had they had Mag instead of Raw.
I think they did.
I think they go to Korea, dude.
Assuming they play well together.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I'm like, I don't know if you want to change anything with how they ended. I think if you change something, it has to be from the start. I don't know if you change.
Okay, you
see what I'm saying? Like, this is. I loved what the Plajack guys had to say on this, where it was like, if you ask Justice to make like a specific meta for them and a specific set of 6 players for them that they would be able to run in that meta, nobody comes up with this. Nobody comes up with that, like, right place, right time, stars align. I don't know if you want to mess with that. Maybe it pushes them forward, but I don't know.
I think that the actual thing is that it is sort of hard to attract talent like that without having the premise, without knowing if DK will stay. That type of stuff is probably pretty hard to convince players of and buy into the vision. And I think actually that deep run did a lot of good for them in the transfer market in terms of trying to attract quality talent.
Yep,
definitely.
They're here to try and win, and they'll do what it takes. And if that means bringing on Decay for an emergency, then it means they bring it on Decay for an emergency. Anybody could have done it.
There's still half a team.
It's true.
But this is a Justice team looking strong here. They're looking
good pieces so far. Good foundation.
So far, so good.
Yep.
Worth noting, and this is kind of another sad one here. Arc has officially retired.
Yeah.
That's sad, huh?
That is also sad, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sad. I think somebody who still had a bit of a future ahead of them. I'd love to see Arc kind of have a redemption, maybe on like a Western mix. Somebody who is I'd say bilingual. I don't think in a definitive sense or like certificated, as bilingual. Maybe that's not necessarily the case, but
certified.
Certified, yeah.
Certificated.
But yeah, somebody who speaks good English, somebody who obviously is from South Korea. So yeah, I could be a good coach one day. In that same vein, and much like a Kooky, could see that.
What was interesting to me was seeing that, like in season 1, he was such a forward-facing person for us, for the NYXL, right?
Yeah.
Giving every interview, doing content and whatnot, and like, I felt like you got a glimpse into his personality that the Justice didn't really use that much, and maybe that's a personal decision, just to focus on your own game. Yeah. But it wasn't the same, and they could have used the PR nice guy. So that was interesting to see that this never really crystallized to that same degree, right?
I wonder if there is something to that where it's like, does he want to be the forward facing guy? Was it more of like Justice's like weird mishmash of like rotating front office people this season? Hard to tell. Obviously, you know, Chad aptly, you know, saying like he did kind of show up on the seating shows, did some interviews here and there, but you know, definitely wasn't the same kind of cohesive look that New York kind of gave us. And I think that kind of is a little bit of column A, column B. You've got a lot of turmoil happening with Justice. Could just be like the visions being built up, torn down, having to be built up again. So that kind of gets lost in translation. So I don't know.
I think Arc would have been a DHA winner if he was on the right team.
Yeah, definitely a candidate in most of the years.
I think most teams underutilized Arc as a player and a personality. And I think that's kind of I'm annoyed by it, number one, because I hate seeing like squandered potential on that. We saw some, yeah, it's just kind of a bummer. We saw some stuff with NYXL with that, but there was a lot of big personalities at the time. Goes over to the Justice, and then I don't want to talk about the Justice right now and how they've platformed their players, but I would have done it very differently. So that's kind of a bummer, but still just kind of a really sad.
Yep. Other blow.
Yeah. Okay. We got to talk about the big one. I feel like we've talked about this team a lot.
Hard not to.
Dallas Fuel have officially signed Fearless and Jexa, who I think I joked about on the last show, just like as a passing, like, what if they just signed Jexa?
Right.
But both now have been confirmed. So the Dallas Fuel, check out this roster here: Doha, Sparkle, Fearless, Hanbin, Repel, and Jexa, with Fielder as well in the flex support role.
Yeah, that's potential top 5 right there.
That's a squad.
Fielder's
squad.
Fila is just ordering Element Mystic gear and just going, guys, remember when we were all on Element Mystic at some point? Right? Like, do you guys remember how I was there? No, I wasn't. Like, this is actually, like, the pattern here is hilarious. And if you extrapolate that pattern, there's really only 2 players that there's more, but there's 2 players that they could be bringing on, which, of course,
does his name start with a V?
Always, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Maybe.
Like XCI is the elephant in the room, of course, and then Happy Vesta is the other one that could be in the room. Then, of course, like the most recent batch of like elite talent from Element Mystic there. So I'm not sure. I mean, I think they will also find backups, a couple of more backups. There's, I'm not sure. You probably want 2 hitscan DPS. So I assume both of them would be coming in. And then I think, yeah, maybe another main tank. I'm not sure.
I mean, yeah, if if you're building the most ideal roster and money is not an issue, then yeah, you want some backups, but I don't think a lot of these backups can be starters. I think you want like either a specialist or somebody who has promise that you might want for next year. So it's like a young main tank who can come in, play behind, you know, maybe see a little bit of playtime here and there, but shouldn't be expecting to start, but has, you know, Overwatch League potential that you can get in early with. Same thing. Well, the double hits can definitely has shown up enough now where it's like, okay, you can maybe argue this either way. I do caution the deep bench perfect world where it's tough to manage. That's not a good thing for anybody involved. There's very few people who can kind of like keep everybody bought in. Yeah, continue. I didn't mean to hijack your point.
I hit the wrong unmute button. I unmuted the stream like the triple page brain I am.
Jeez.
I'll just say this. DM also hasn't found a home yet, right?
Ooh, careful, sir.
Now that's the heat.
Careful.
That's the spice. That's what I like to hear. I don't think that that's likely.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
So when I heard you were extrapolating, and to be fair, anything else you want to kind of touch on before I extrapolate farther? Okay.
Go.
Now that the pattern has been established and is like overly established, almost triply so, right? With this being Dallas Mystic, right? I think this should invoke a lot of trust that this is Rush's team. Not only are these his players, but he's making these moves. I don't think you sign all of your former players without being handed a checkbook from Hastro and being told, build me a team.
Right.
Hands off. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't even want to see it. Don't talk to me until you have contracts signed. Go do your thing. This is the thing that he's done. He signed all of his former players that have proven success, have proven track records, gives you a core to work with and build on in the future. I think this is exactly what Dallas Fuels have been asking for years. I say that like we've been around for 10, 20 years, but we've only been around for 3 years, but somehow we still have these narratives. And I think they're finally doing it. I think this is the year. If there's ever been a year to be excited, I think this is it. Everything is being checked off. You have a coach building a roster. That is very apparent to me. This is Rush's team through and through. He's worked with the players. He's handling all of it. It looks to me like he's handling all of this.
Yeah.
I'm very, very promising roster.
Who else could it be? The hitscan DPS.
I think it's either XC or Happy. I think that's it.
Dude, I'll straight up say I think BQB would be an excellent pickup as well.
Sure. I think there are definitely like good other pickups, but I think the track record speaks for itself.
Don't get me started on Glista, dude. That would be amazing.
I think that's the talk of the town, and I have opinions on where that boy's going. I think Glista. I think there's one team that he's played for, or at least has connections to, that wouldn't be mad at bringing him back.
Yeah, I think. Okay. Yeah, we can talk about this in a second. Yeah. I think that's a really good a pickup. I wonder what Nene is about, but sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I also think you kind of you can't just like bring just the most crazy individual players on every position. And I think someone like BQB is just so smart with how he plays with resources and without that this would possibly be the best pickup that they could be getting here, other than the obvious ones I mentioned before.
Yeah,
with XCI and Happy.
I think he meets a kind of like a value estimation along with like an average skill that is above average. Has played both with resources without. Yeah, I see where your head's at for sure with BQB. I think he's definitely somebody who nobody should be mad at. It might not evoke a lot of like fire, a lot of like excitement out of people, but that's a pickup that I think about it much like a glue guy, right? Like somebody who you can plug in and is just going to be valuable, like just an absolute workhorse and is going to do a lot for that team. I don't know. The pattern feels too strong for me to deviate away from it. Obviously they have with Fielder, but I don't know. I don't know if Russia's willing to think that outside the box. We'll see.
Okay. I'm not sure if Bench brought this up sort of like to semi-troll of if it's his opinion, but what do you think about the Dallas Fuel backline?
I like their backline. I don't think it's the strongest in the world, but
yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of Jaxi for a long time. I think Fielder's sick. Repel gives you that double flex support that I think a lot of people were. I'd have to look again, but I think there were certain teams that like kind of were hindered by that and didn't have that second flex support to be able to plug in and were limited. So I think that opens them up. Again, I don't think it's like gonna knock anybody's socks off, but I think it's definitely like above average.
Yeah, I mean both teams that these players, Jexa and Repel, and I mean they didn't have great performances, right? Before the Titans implosion, and then the Houston Outlaws, I think overall underperforming.
Yeah,
it's I don't know if you could take last year's performance on face value just because of those things, you know.
Yeah, I'd temper expectations with like the Houston like kind of season. I don't know. It's the missed opportunity there. I think kind of clouds Jexa in particular. I think Repel just is a good flex support. I don't think like he's star caliber. I think he's just fine. It's a fine backline. Like it's if there was a weak
that's
point,
my problem.
It might be the backline.
That's my problem. I don't understand Repel. I really don't. Because here's the thing with the.
I mean, yeah, I agree.
I understand Fielder because he played well, and do you still have the ping question mark? So you kind of will have to wonder where this kid could go.
Yeah.
As a backup, I would get someone like with a promising RoKy perspective that fits into this roster. Like, for instance, I think MCD was like someone that could have been brought up, and then I also think. For Jackson in particular, and okay, I'm going to butcher this name. I'm very sorry. Hopefully someone can correct me. But then also the other part of the recent element Mystic backline, like Ansonje, I think is how I would pronounce it in the German way I would pronounce it. Yeah, I think that would have been a more interesting choice to me. In my mind, it's like, okay, if you have solid players, then I want experimental high peakers behind them. And Fielder is both at the same time, like someone that has proven to be solid and we don't know if he can peak yet. Repel, I don't know if there's anything more in the tank to really squeeze there. Like, he just seems like someone who hung around teams and, like, couldn't really... Okay, you don't expect to be playing ahead of Twilight, of course. Should be expected to play ahead of Raucus, I think, even though, I mean, depending on the hero, to be fair. Sure. And then develop as a teammate enough in order to... Even if the Anna is... individually better to sort of displace him there. Maybe that's also a communication thing. I don't know, but like that's I feel like that's something where if you believe in that pickup, you kind of gotta trust that Rush knows what he's getting into with him, which he should. But yeah, like that's the one question mark where it's like. What kind of a backline are you building there? Where it can very quickly feel Gladiators-esque, where you have like the Porsche in the DPS line, and like the BMW in the tank line, but then you just got the Volkswagen, or like I don't know, the Toyota, and
yeah. I think that's always kind of going to be the case. And I think this gives them, hopefully, I guess the outset is that this gives them stability. So it isn't just like this team that just jumps around or is just like completely bottom tier. I think I'd mark this season as a success as long as they don't just start blowing all kinds of cash for them. If they were like, again, if they were just like 10th consistently, like just middle of the pack, I think that'd be good. That'd be a good mark for Dallas. Obviously ending, let's take a look at historical season finishes.
Wait, you
right?
think a good season for Dallas with this lineup is 10th?
As long as they don't go too overboard with the next purchases, yeah. As long as they're not like blowing a bunch of cash. Yeah,
I think
it'd
that's
be
way
fine.
too low. I think that's way.
You haven't seen a lot of those teams.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree that this could be a 10th place team.
Yeah.
But I think that that's way too low from what Hastro is projecting as far as goals go, as far as what, I don't know, just what this roster seems to be built for. I don't think you put out that kind of cash for Fearless, Hanbin, and Sparkle and go, we want to be in the top half of the league. You're building a top 6 team here. And,
yeah, I don't know if that vision lines up then. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm not saying that that's not where they end up there, but I would say that is a super. I would say that if right now, based on everything I'm seeing, let's just say I get clicked, right? Adam Sandler and click, and you just fast forward a year, and we're at a year again, and we're talking about this, and you're like, man, that Dallas Fuel, they finished 10th and stuff. I go, oh, that sucks.
And to be fair, this isn't 10th in NA. Like I know that
you
could
mean
be
the whole league.
misconstrued.
I know you mean the whole
league. This is like
league.
an entire league finish that they'd place at the very least mid-pack. They could go higher, 100%. I'm saying the floor for them with this roster so far is 10th.
3 NA, top 5.
Sure, you should easily be top 5 NA with this team.
Top 3 NA, top 5 Overwatch League energy is what Hastro and everybody in Envy is going through and being sold on.
Right. I think this is very much in the same way that because they're early to the party and they're doing a lot of like fan service with the Element Mystic stuff, which I get and I put a lot of stock into. I think they will be good, but we have to remember that this team historically has underperformed when they, should be good, right? You look at Decay, you look at Effect, you look at season 1. They need some sort of stability.
In hindsight, though, should season 1 Dallas Fuel have been good?
Yeah.
Like,
should have been.
I don't know. Like, I look at it and I go, logically, it makes sense for Dallas Fuel season 1. It makes sense why they ended up where they did.
Interesting.
I think we've talked about it a million times about like you have Apex season 1 and then what? You have some kind of sketchy top results in tournaments that didn't put together the best of field. And people expected them to be good on the quantity of that alone when we, in hindsight found out that 8 of the 12 teams could just build better teams or sign better Korean teams just like that.
I don't know that was the case in season 1 though. I think season 1
as we went
was
through it, I agree.
Kind of a fire.
But in hindsight, we've even had Sideshow on the show here. And we've said like, if in hindsight, we're like, yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of things that make sense here about why Dallas didn't perform well. If we come back here right now looking, and you can clip this, Eric, whatever you want, and I'll say it right now, this is a team that on paper would not make sense to not be a top 5 teams, assuming that they make at least one more kind of big signing here somewhere, probably in the back line.
That is the feeling, that is the projection. I really temper expectations with that. I think, are you speaking top 5 in NA or Globe?
3
like
NA, 5 overall, maybe 6.
That's tough.
Owl.
I think
I know.
6, I'd be much more agreeable. It's going to be tough for this team. I think this is a good team. I think this is like an above average playoff caliber team. I temper the expectations with, going for titles or anything like that. Like, we got to see what the Fusion do. We have to see what Shanghai does. We have to see what Seoul does. There's so many teams left on the table to be able to
no
really
joke.
swing
We
that
still
vote.
have 38 free agent spots available.
Yeah.
And I think that's just to like hit league minimum numbers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, that's a lot of announcements coming in the next couple of weeks, of course.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good things to be said about Dallas. I think there's a lot of things that they've solved and are correcting. I just don't think this is the season where we just.
I think I'm debating
them.
you a little bit on semantics, so I'll bow out. But like
Fair enough.
I just like I can't right now. I can't like there's kind of teams where it's just like there's no reason this team should underperform and they underperform. And you're like I still kind of don't totally know why this didn't click, that didn't work, this thing didn't. That has happened in the past. I think NYXL I think are one of those teams where it's just like I'm still just not like totally sure why they just can't like play libero, turn it on, just kind of like turn the corner. This is a team where if they finish 10th, I'm like, I have no idea, dude. I have no idea. Like, I don't know what else you can really do outside of like, oh yeah, and we signed Violet Moth and Diem, or something just
unless
dumb
you
like
just
that.
literally
right?
take the top free agents. Sure. I agree.
So, anyways, all that to say, I personally, Yiska, do you feel like 10 would be a severe underperformance? Like, where are you in this? Are you in the top
10th
5
overall, to be fair?
Are you in the top 5 to 6 overall Overwatch League? Or are you in the top 10 overall Overwatch League crowd for
10th as
Dallas
a floor?
Fuel, with what we know right now?
What's the floor of this team in your summation?
The floor? Yeah, 10th probably. Somewhere there. I think there's theoretically a couple of other teams that could get ahead, but it's like I think, for instance, if anything, Spark is going to step in as a second. The third best team in Asia. I think there's reason to believe that Seoul will be the best team in Asia next year.
Could be.
And then it's drop off from there in my mind. I think I don't know what Charge is doing there.
Yeah, I'm not big on.
I'm watching different games from people when they say Karif is a valuable replacement for Shu.
No,
I feel like
RoKy.
we're on different planes of existence when someone says this.
By the way, I think we might changing this argument to floor versus like realistic
if that
expectations.
wasn't clear, that was the hope.
Floor, I mean, even then, 10 is still a little.
I'd be okay with Dallas being 10th.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Would you be okay with Dallas being 10th, Yiska?
Nah. Not after the investment. Nah.
You have to invest. You have to invest to be able to turn that around. I think this is if 10th is a failure, I think the one thing that you can hold on to is that the 2022, at least you have like a functioning core to build around. I think that's the value here. I don't think you're shooting for playoffs. I think this is probably, depending on what the rest of the league looks like, and definitely open to being wrong in terms of performance. But I think this is like a strong play-in team thus far, with the projections of Seoul, with the projections of Shanghai, with where Shock is at right now, where Philly's at right now. Like, there's a lot of potential teams. You look at the Gladiators, even in the same region, that I'm like, I don't know if this team has it in them. They all have synergy. They have that core to build around. That's why I look at next year.
By the way, though, chat, just for everybody here, because I know everybody is.
I am shocked that this is like that of a take.
Is not on what Volamel is saying. This is also one of the things that Volamel says, that we visit in 6 months again. And
sure,
I'll write a story Dallas Fuel.
I think
so. This is where we get the Volamel Oracle emote, and this is why we had it made, because it does happen. way too often for what should be right there. But you know, this is also something that we can clip. So if somebody wants to be our clip master and kind of manage some of these, because these are one of those takes that I think I would love to revisit at like mid-season and then at the end of the season again.
Sure.
Not to like rub it in anybody's faces, but to see how right or wrong we were. Yeah, because it is really interesting. I just like, man, I can't in good conscience right now get on board with like, this is a Dallas Fuel 10th place finish is just, I don't know how you get Fearless, Hanbin, Sparkle.
Yeah, no.
Hanbin's the big one. I think Hanbin is probably the best player on this team. Compared to his peers.
Even
I like him a lot.
I feel like
I like
Fearless.
Sparkle too. Don't get me wrong.
And I feel like the highest. I feel like the highest peaks. Like, if nothing happens to this kid's career, it's going to be Sparkle all the way, dude. Like, it's never not going to be. Like, I had my doubts last season. This kid came in 28 days later, just
and
zombie ran over the Shock and
sure.
Philly and just took a title for himself.
Let me ask you this then. Maybe best player is the wrong definition. Do you have to cut one person? Do you cut Hanbin? Do you cut Sparkle? Who's the most valuable?
Most valuable? I think after next season, we're going to talk about Sparkle as the most valuable player just because he's a full package. Hanbin might as well, like, if Hanbin was mute, I wouldn't know. I know Sparkle isn't mute, dude.
Sure, yeah. Okay, looking at it from like are you looking from like a forward facing like personality that people can rely? Okay, that's fine. I hate consistently moving the goalposts, but I'll take it.
I wonder if that is going to change in terms of like how Sparkle will be allowed to interact with his stream and whatnot. I'm not sure who like if it was a limitation he imposed on himself, or if his coaches did, or the GM did, or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that will change. I wonder if that will do something to his level, to be fair. But like, this kid is obviously very entertaining on his stream, and to a wide range of crowds as well. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it just because we have to figure out, like, I don't know, a team with Fearless, Hanbin, and Sparkle will not accept finishing just 10th, dude. Like, that's,
if they were making it to like semifinals of playoffs at the end of the year, I think that it's an underperformance.
Semifinals of playoffs is an underperformance.
So we're talking top
4.
Loser bracket. So assuming that there's 8 teams, I would say top 6 would be. Wouldn't that be semifinals with loser bracket?
Well, semi would be 3rd, 4th if you do losers.
Am I thinking quarterfinals?
Quarters would be. I'd be a little bit more agreeable there. Yeah, top 6, top 8 kind of feeling.
Okay, sorry, I'm messing up on the terminology, but
I mean, you got to think about the bracket. It's
they got to go beyond the first round in playoffs for sure.
Sure, I think it's doable.
Should go through the second round of playoffs, and then from there,
that one's tough for me. That's where I go. That's a stretch. I think they could make playoffs. On the outset, we have to look at what the rest of these teams do. I think they could make playoffs. How deep they go is going to determine a lot. I think there's promise with Sparkle. If you look at teams historically who do win, it's usually off of the backs of either just like the best tanks and supports or an explosive DPS player hitting the right pad. And Dallas has that potential. Depends on what kind of gamble you're getting with them. What patch is landing? Does it land well with them? Tough to say. I think this is a good season for them.
You heard it here first.
Dude.
Volamel says Dallas Fuel bottom 11 team.
I'm shocked that like 10th as a floor for this team is that hot. I think that's so good for them. That's what they need to like salvage this like franchise. I get like Element Mystic is like a hot team. I don't think I can see a team
signing and spending this much money.
It's impossible.
The Dallas Fuel salvaging this franchise is a top 5 finish. Yes. Period. Like that is what
anything
salvaging,
else is a disappointment. 100%.
Anything else, I think if you get like 6th or 7th, I think that with the proper framing,
that's fantastic.
I think with the proper framing, you're okay. And Dallas Fuel are kind of like they kind of slide into that like LA Gladiators role.
Yeah, is that not okay?
Which is okay, but not ideal. And I'm not happy with it. Below that, when you start talking 8th, 9th, 10th, you done f***ed up, Ron. Like that is really bad to me.
And keep in mind, I'm not necessarily talking about the qualities of this roster, as in top 10 would be acceptable, but the investment that goes into it and what they require in order to reclaim their name as a top tier brand. Like, that's not a starting point. You're not starting anything with that roster this season. You're coming out and running people over, getting the best names on the market, trying to win this season. Like, you could argue, like if you were very optimistic, you could argue anything outside of finals would be disappointing for this team.
Maybe I'm just completely underestimating exactly how much they paid for this roster, but I don't think Dallas was ever going to escape the investment argument. They had to blow the ship up and rebuild it from scratch. They were forced to invest, right?
I don't think so. Like, no, I don't agree with that at all. I think that they were forced to finally build a team that could meet expectations.
Sure.
That's the only thing I think Dallas needs to do right now, and that expectation needs to not be a bottom 5 team. But they've gone the other route and go, you know what? Let's just go all in. And I think that that's an okay method to go.
Yeah.
But I think that they could have built a team that's a 10th place team. And I think that Dallas fans would be happy as long as that they were rated and played like a 10th place team. This is a 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st place team.
Yeah.
That's built like a 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st place team. Sold like a 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st place team. If they hit 10th, it's the same Dallas feel we've always got. We just moved the delta from like 7th to 14th.
Yeah.
Down up to, you know, whatever that is. That's a severe underperformance.
I also tell you, I'm not convinced that this roster has a championship in them. I think they're more likely to be like the Paris that can grab a tournament or whatever. I think that's sort of like the attack vector.
Yeah, if they were painted in a similar narrative as Paris Eternal, where they have a peak, they look really good, you know, they're competitive within their region for a long time, you know, make deep runs into tournaments, but then underperform in playoffs. Is that something you think is a disappointment?
No, that would be okay.
If Dallas, if we just like copy pasted this roster into Paris Eternal last season.
No. Other way. You take the feeling of Paris and you put it on this roster. The same success that Paris had, and you put it on Dallas. Is that an underperformance in your summation? The feeling, the narrative, the stories, the success.
I think, and again, it's kind of tough because Paris, you know, obviously had a stage playoff win, right?
Yeah, they won Summer Showdown
tournament. They won a Summer Showdown, which I think is a big thing. They made some performances. I don't love it.
Justice.
I don't love it, but even then, like, I can't account for another Justice 2.0 this season, where it's like,
sure, of course.
Oh, this lines up. You always have to like I think, kind of expand and know that something weird is going to happen in the season because it's happened every season. But I don't think to that level. So I think if you go back and say that we did great, we won a showdown, and then we had this team come up who basically just kind of threw, I think that you could sell that. And I think that podcasts like ourselves, OverwatchLeague.com writers, content creators would be able to craft a narrative on something that is one of the worst parts about competitive Overwatch, and that is the volatility in high stakes situations in Overwatch League right now is, in my opinion, and I don't think that this is a hot take at all, too high. I'm sorry, Washington Justice should have never been in the situation that they were in the last year.
Yeah.
And as long as we can avoid those types of things, I don't think we run into those things. And I think that we have a team where you look at, Paris Eternal, and like Paris Eternal, I think finished lower, but understandably so, that you can define a rhyme and reason to it, and you cannot chalk it up to a Paris underperformance. And I think that that's a big thing where, Dallas Fuel, at the end of the day, if there might be a way where they could finish 10th and we can actually tie every single result.
Yep.
So, like, let's say that they just suck, but they squeeze in every time and then win stage 1, 2, 3, 4.
We'll see.
Like, let's talk about like that delta. Like, what does an underperformance in regular season games look like? But going deep into playoffs, an overperformance in playoffs, is that better or worse? And then an overperformance in regular season, you do the NYXL thing where you play consistently well, and then once you start playing stakes matches, you aren't seen as playing that good. Yeah, so Soul's a great example. So you have Soul last year, right? Who they finished 11-10 or something like that,
and then
have multiple high place finishes in tournaments and then end of year tournament.
Yep.
So there is, again, there's a lot of volatility here.
100%.
And even then, most people I don't think of Soul as a sub 500 team.
No. I mean, I think that opinion changes exactly who you ask and when last season.
Mm-hmm.
I think people were very down on them specific weeks. I think people were, stocks were low. I guess my last thing with Dallas and like looking at this for the future is I think this is going to be a great example of early evaluations and then coming to terms with where they actually are come power rankings. I think I think it's going to be a very tough ask to put Dallas where you think they're going to finish when we get to power rank. Because when you see the rest of these teams built, it's tough to when you actually have to put pen to paper and start ordering teams. Putting Dallas top 5 is going to be a bit of an ask. I caution people to wait and see, and I'm very positively optimistic that Dallas is going to do good. I guess that just doesn't align up with exactly where the community hope.
And we did discuss this. And again, I'm just going to say this right now. 99 players have been rostered.
Yeah.
There's still 38 slots available. That's like, doing quick math here, that's about 40%, right? So, there's a lot of signings, I would imagine. I would hope so. And probably a lot of signs right now that are probably like, there's probably just a lot of signings in general because we've got the team option deadline in 2 days.
Yep.
So hold on to your butts for the next 2 days and let's kind of see how things shake out. I bet you on Monday, we're going to have a pretty insane show with finding out what a lot more of these teams look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we do need to get out of here. We need to end it on that. We'll argue. Dallas bottom 11 team confirmed. Big thank you to everybody who hung out today. Hope you had a good time. Big thank you to our Patreon producers, Refi Bean, Ferdino Pin, Battlecrab, Lotion, Rex Zane, Audio Compass, Kosh 67, Shar, Picasso, Nathan, Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Fabled Steven, Roger B, Owen, Chris R34444, Horbjorn. I listen to the podcast whilst on the toilet in the shower thinking of Yiska and Peace Camper. If you like the show, a great way to support your favorite content creators, whether it's us or anybody else, is Patreon. go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Sign up for as little as $1 a month. You get a special role in Discord. You get priority spots on our game nights. And we will thank you on the next show. Or leave a subscribe here at patreon.com, or not Patreon, twitch.tv/Kickedtripod. Yiska, who we got today? I love his face. He never knows. He never knows.
Scrolling down, we have new subs. Only resubs. Boo How, Coppers, and then 70 bits by Chris. Thank you very much.
And just as you said that, Chris gifted a sub to Blue Devil JR. Thanks for that gifted sub, Chris, as well. And big thank you to all the follows as well. If you're not following the channel, please do. We're coming up on like 4,000 followers on this channel. So that's pretty cool. So appreciate you all a ton. No new 5-star iTunes reviews. But Joe, shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
You can find me on the socials. You want to lambast me about my Dallas take? Hey, go for it. More power to you. Spoke with Albert, so that interview should be coming out on GG Recon sometime soon, hopefully tomorrow. And then got a Valorant piece scheduled for later this week, and then we'll see what next week holds. We'll see what kind of roster movement, any kind of roster juice we can write about. But yeah, that's the week for me pretty much.
Yiska, what about you?
I started sort of like so when a roster move happens, I will write news about it, of course, for GG Recon, but I will also add my take to it. What makes sense and what kind of roster moves are likely to happen based on the structure that it has been established there, or the trend in terms of the gameplay characteristics of these players, as well as the tendency of following coaches, and just taking everything in together and trying to make educated guesses as to where it's going where.
Cool. All right. Well, as for me, nothing new or crazy, but still doing the thing. We got new WoW expansion coming up. Trying to get a hold of a graphics card before then. Not going super well, so if you have a lead on a 3080, let me know. Other than that, you can find me everywhere at Kickedtripod, and we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thanks again. We're going to head over to leg day. Big thanks to everybody. Hope you have a great one. We'll see you next time for Tactical Crouch. Bye.
Gamer posture.